What is going on, everybody? How's everybody doing? So, saw a very interesting article. I don't usually do this on Mondays, but I was like, this is a good one. I kind of wanted to do it. And so I decided to do a little whiteboarding and see what you guys think. Now, as always, I want to see where you guys are joining from. So if you're watching this live, drop it in the comments. I want to see where are you joining from. What city are you in? Please drop in the comments. If you like what I'm doing and you're new to the stream, please give me those little emojis. That helps the stream a lot. So let me know where you're coming in from. I want to see where you guys are joining. So drop a little chat in the city, or drop a city in the chat rather. And let's see where you guys are coming from. And if you ask a good question, I will highlight your question. So let's start with what I read. So I read a very interesting article by Brian Miller, who's a chief digital officer at Intuitive, called Illuminating Insights, Translating Data into Better Outcomes for Patients. So his thing was that by putting robotic assisted technology in surgeons' hands, they feel like they're essentially able to enable them to, and their care teams to deliver more minimally invasive care. And more specifically, that robotic assisted surgery creates this digital link between the surgeons and the patients. So if that happens, there's an ability to measure surgery and generate data streams in a way that are not easily captured using other surgical modalities. I'm reading this directly from his article. So one of the examples he gives is that there's a digital link that can enable an understanding of how surgeons use and move surgical instruments when performing tasks during procedures. So his thing is, imagine a world where surgeons, hospitals, and Intuitive collaborate to harness artificial intelligence and machine learning to translate data into better outcomes for patients, personalized training for surgeons, and lower costs for hospitals, right? Oh, and of course I see some comments. Neil's coming in from Dubai. Niels, you're traveling to this week. All right. Jared Eben from Denver, Colorado. Heiko Zervogel. I hope I didn't pronounce that incorrectly, from Berlin. Dr. Julian Nesbitt, London. Thank you, Dr. Julian Nesbitt, for joining. And again, if you like what I'm talking about, you think I'm doing a good job, see those little emojis at the bottom left? Hit those little emojis. And by the way, for those of you who are watching on YouTube and Twitter, you guys have those same functions. On Twitter, I don't know if you guys have the emojis, but you can leave comments on Twitter. I can see your comments on Twitter. Same with YouTube and Facebook. Okay. So, and I see a few, I see some more comments. I appreciate it. Always love it. Okay. Now let me show you this article real quick, and we're going to take a look at Intuitive's video before I talk about my question, which is, a couple of things I have with the article I want to touch on, but more specifically, this potential SaaS model, which, if in my opinion, if Intuitive, I don't want to say if they're smart, but they should do this, because, why not Intuitive, So let's take a quick look. I'm going to do a quick screen share here. Okay. So here is here's the article. You can find it on LinkedIn. Oh, this was published about a month ago. So let's kind of zoom in. So they talk about a virtuous data loop. Here is the app, which I think is really cool. I think this is where the future of surgery needs to go, which is, look, we're already getting into Web 3.0, but medicine and surgery specifically is still stuck in Web 1.0. What that means is that when Web 1.0 is mainly browser focused, Web 2.0 was mobile, Web 3.0 is, AI and VR and all these different things. So So it's good to see that apps are coming out like this. Okay. But let me scroll down a little bit. Um, so first of all, like let's just talk about this app, what he's referring to here. I'm going to share my screen here and let's watch this quick video from Intuitive. Intuitive, you should you should sponsor the show, guys. Like give me a little give me a little support here. I'm showing you guys the stuff.
100.
We're not going to watch all 3 minutes of this. Okay.
59, 522. As a runner, these are my numbers. These numbers, without context, they don't make any sense. But in the right context.
And of course, how could I forget? I need to be better about these streams here. Here we go. Actually, let's do it like this. This is better. All right, let's keep that rolling then.
Context. They're really insightful. That smartwatch on my wrist is my partner. The data is extremely important to me to be able to track my progress and see where I am. But I've never had anything like that for surgery. I always knew as I sat down at the console in that computer platform, I always knew that it was collecting all this data.
Great point. Okay, so I like where this is, so Intuitive marketing team, good job, by the way. I think all good marketing starts by being able to anchor somebody to anchor the viewer to something, right? So that when you introduce the new thing, they're anchored to something in contrast. I don't like comparing all the time, but in this case, when it comes to educating, comparisons are good. So the comparison is, surgeon likes to run. It's like, hey, I have all this data that helps guide me, makes me better, etc. I'm in surgery. It's no different than a sport. Why don't I have data, right? Okay, we get that.
One day I would learn a lot from it, but I just couldn't get to it. I didn't have access, and the insights that I knew would come, I was just dreaming of the day that we'd get a look at it.
I think of data as being all around a dark room. And the question is, how do you illuminate the data in some natural way to give you insight? How do we make that data discoverable and actionable? And that's why we created MyIntuitive.
MyIntuitive really is the central digital touch point for our customers. When a surgeon opens the MyIntuitive app for the first time, they're going to be able to see their most recent procedures.
You can pull up the data and you can have it analyzed in different ways. You can track different metrics. You can get notifications from it. So now the surgeon has access to that data at their fingertips. The app makes that connection.
One of my favorite things about the app is that I can take a look at, say, an inguinal hernia case, and I can hold it and I can see it took 124 minutes. I used 7 instruments. I can see exactly what I used. That's super helpful for me as a surgeon to be able to see the choreography of the instruments.
I was really impressed with the amount of data and the quality of data and
timeline. And then I could just turn it sideways and I could be able to see the entire case from start to finish. As I drag this timeline back and forth, you can actually see the instruments changing back and forth. So you can see it.
All right, let's stop there because it's a 3-minute long video. So nice video. But let me come back and let me stop sharing screen. Okay, so as you guys saw, what was the whole point of this, right? You have the surgical robot, you have the Da Vinci system. There's all this data. So now we have this app called MyIntuitive, which allows you to, track all these things. Here's a couple of things I want to comment on, right? Love Brian Miller's article. Personally, I think that it would be great if you can dive deeper into this. Brian, if you watch this, I'd love to have you on the show to dive deeper into this topic and discuss it because, the article is good. But it's kind of surface level. It's just very, very. It's kind of short. There's a lot of questions that I have, and I think a lot of surgeons who watch this show will have. But one of the things I do want to point out, though, and push back just a little bit if I can, it's talking about the ability to measure surgery. Now, that's not true, and here's the reason why: is that it gives you the ability to measure Da Vinci surgeries, right? Now, here's the thing, though. This introduces an interesting opportunity for Intuitive. Now let's head over to the whiteboard and see. So before I reveal what's on this side, let's talk about this right here. So because, this is a kind of a, these are whiteboard drawings. So I did my best to draw an intuitive robot here. Okay. So here's your Da Vinci case, here's your Da Vinci surgical station, here's your mobile app, and time. Okay, right. And if we go back, let's go back to the Da Vinci video for one quick second, just so that I can highlight this so you guys know what I'm talking about. And I'm going to put this on low. So here's a surgeon talking about, again, like the app, right here. I can see what's going on with what instrument, so on and so forth, who's using what, right? So there's all this stuff, which is, from what I can see, the amount of time it's being used, and then console time, and then what instrument. Okay, cool. So that's a good place to start, right? But here's my point. You're only measuring Da Vinci cases. You're not measuring surgery. You're measuring Da Vinci surgery, right? Which is fine. That's a great place to start. There's nothing wrong with that. But again, as to the point of this broadcast, the whole point of this is, can Intuitive do true SaaS? And I think this is interesting, right? So what are you getting in that time, right? You're getting data. The whole point of data is prediction and better outcomes. That's the whole point of it. Why do we get data? To predict, to see what has happened in the past, so we can make a better chance of predicting what might happen in the future, and then you have better outcomes. That's the whole point of it, right? Here's the interesting point, and I want to see some comments. Any questions, please drop them in the comments below. Give me those emojis. I see them coming up. I love it. I love the hearts. I love the light bulbs. Just keep, put your fingers to work while I'm entertaining you here. Now, here's the other side of it. Okay. What's Intuitive trying to do? Intuitive's trying to make sure they use the Da Vinci robot for as many cases as possible, right? Unfortunately, with all the work that Intuitive's done, along with all these other robotic companies, if we look at soft tissue surgeries, like 5% of all procedures are done robotically. So it's like nothing. Okay. Now, if the goal is to make surgeons better, here's an interesting model. Billion-dollar advice, Intuitive's billion-dollar advice right here. Intuitive has the money to acquire all kinds of technologies, and I know they have. I mean, that's one thing they've done a really great job. They acquire, other technologies. Okay, here's the Da Vinci cases. Here's all other surgeries. They take this much time, that much time. Different types. Okay. What would be interesting? What if Intuitive somehow comes up with, and this exists, by the way, in a lot of other industries, some towers, right? That perhaps have some video cameras on them. Or if, because they don't have, they don't own all those instruments, if there's a way to track instruments in the OR, right? I don't know. But let's just say you have a tower with a really, really good quality computer vision on that, and you're looking at all these different surgeries, right? Let's just start with something simple like a prostatectomy, right? Prostatectomy, that's not done with the Intuitive robot. Or maybe over here, let's call it a lap chole, okay? Well, if you get the data from that, and then you have a comparison between the Intuitive case and the non-Intuitive case, then you might actually have a chance of converting this over, right? And so the SaaS model that I'm talking about here is that, and I guess maybe it's part SaaS. Like, there's obviously some hardware involved in here, but maybe the SaaS model, actually, no, I take that back. This could be still true SaaS. Intuitive has more than enough money to, let's say if they acquired something like this, right? Like a tower with vision on it or something. They give that to the hospital. Hey, hospital, you buy this robot, you get these towers that you can put into all your ORs for non-Intuitive cases, and this will collect data and will give you like feedback on how these cases are going, right? So then the hospital does not pay for the hardware. What the hospital pays for is the SaaS model, software as a service, right? So it could be just the software and the data that's involved with these types of cases, right? Because then you have a good way of justifying why you should use an Intuitive robot for other cases, right? I don't know. If there's a company that could do this, it would be Intuitive. Like, it's not going to be Medtronic or J&J. Sorry, guys. I mean, unless I'm mistaken here, I don't see that happening. So that would be really interesting. Another really interesting thing is that if there's an actual company, I think there is a company that actually does what I'm describing here. Why don't they sell that data all to Intuitive all day long? I mean, I don't know. So those are my thoughts on it. The reason why I wanted to talk about this was, again, I think it's a great initiative. I think it's great that Intuitive is introducing an app that allows them to capture data from their Da Vinci cases, right? But it's not tracking surgery. It's tracking Da Vinci surgeries, right? And I think it's a great place to start. This would be really interesting. So that being said, let's see what questions do we have in the comments. All right. Mike Kuhn, DOS. Yes, that's right. This is a category opportunity. That is true. This is absolutely a category opportunity. But the problem is that most med device companies suck, if not all of them, suck at marketing, and so they don't know a category opportunity when they see one. I'll point one out. Was Verb Surgical, the Google J&J venture. 6 years ago, they talked about digital surgery, right? That was a huge category opportunity. That was like my first big article that I wrote. But they, in my opinion, did not capitalize on that, to the point that there was even a company that named itself Digital Surgery. So that was a lost opportunity. So Mike Kuhn, question is, how does Da Vinci look at pricing models? That's a great question. I have no idea. I have no clue on the pricing models. But again, if you want to talk about pricing, like if Intuitive's, here's the thing. What we talk about data, right? What's the value of software? Okay. Well, the value of software is that it helps change behavior, right? If you give data and you present it in a certain way, like, look, I'm wearing a Whoop device, right? Why do I wear Whoop? Well, I used to have a Fitbit many years ago. I threw that thing away. I never used it. I never cared for it. Why did I get Whoop? What makes Whoop any better than an Apple Watch or a Fitbit or anything? Because of the way they present the data. That influences my behavior. And so if Intuitive finds a way to even just get some data from these non-intuitive cases, these non-Da Vinci cases, then you present that in a certain way, that might be enough to change behavior, right? And especially surgeons are, if anybody's like an athlete in medicine, it's surgeons, right? That might be a compelling way to start introducing non-Da Vinci cases versus Da Vinci cases, right? I think it's worth doing. What else? What other questions we got? Do we have anything else? Everyone's a little quiet today. Okay, we got one from Twitter, from Anonymous, so I won't post it. Oh, this is a direct. Okay. Yeah, so the question is, why hasn't Intuitive already done this? I don't know. That's a great question. I don't know why. I mean, I would imagine that, like, look, regardless of what kind of company you have or what kind of platform you have, the first thing is that you want to be able to present valuable data and insights with your own technology and product before you start moving outside of it. But again, like, I don't know. There has to be. I'm almost certain. I just can't think of. If anybody can remember the names of any companies that do what I just described, which is they go into the OR and they visualize. Actually, you know what? I know. I think I know a company. Hold on. I think I know a company that's doing something like this. Give me 1 second, because I don't know if they're public about this, because I technically may have signed a friendly non-disclosure agreement. But let me hold on. Let me check. Let's see. Before I share the company name, let's see. Okay, are they actually talking about it yet? Okay, so I'm on this company's website that I'm talking about. I just want to make sure. Let's see. Okay. So I don't know if I can talk. I might be able to talk about this. Hold on. Let's see. So I don't know. So I'm just looking at there's a company called and actually let me share the website here. So there's a really cool company here we go called Appella, um, and their thing is whoops. I always mess this up, guys. Sorry, I probably gave somebody a seizure. um, uh, Technology for better surgery. So their whole thing is, using data, insights, new actions, new results. So I believe they're talking about what I'm talking about here. I'm not too sure. I don't want to. I don't want to jump ahead of things, but yeah, you know what? This actually, I'm going to reach out. So I know the CEO of this company. I'm going to reach out to him and see if he's willing to come on the show to talk about this. So, okay. So, anyways, that might be one company worth bringing on the show. But let's see. Any other questions? All right, questions. So great question, Mike Kuhn. So do surgeons even want their data? Would this expose any unfavorable data? Curious around surgeons' willingness to participate in potential exposure. Yeah, so that's a great point. So I wrote so that's a good point. I wrote many years ago an article which I need to go back and amend. I wrote an article originally titled something like "Why Surgeons Don't Want Robots in the OR." And back then, at least for the person I was working for, I was at a different robotics company. I got reprimanded for that article, so I changed the title. And I was a young manager, so I was afraid of losing my job. Not anymore. So I'm gonna go. Maybe I should rewrite that article actually. But yeah, it's a great point, Mike, because I think that surgeons, for the most part, culturally and historically, are very secretive, right? If you look at the surgeon barbers of the past, they were very secretive about their techniques and everything. So that's one of the, I think, hesitancies about data and AI and all these things. One is surgeons, even though they don't understand, a lot of them don't understand AI and robotics. Their thing is like, one, I don't want to get replaced, and two, they don't want the C-suite and hospital administration in their OR, like looking at what they're doing and tracking all these things. Like, and I don't think anybody would. That being said, it could be that you give surgeons an option where it's like, we don't share this with hospital admin. I think that's the only thing. But I'm not sure. It just depends. So again, like any technology, if you look at the technology adoption curve, there's, and let me, if we look, let me erase this real quick. If you look at the technology adoption curve, right? And here we go, right? For anything, doesn't matter how great it is, you're always starting out here. And so there's going to be like 90% of surgeons that are going to say, no, I don't want that, worthless, not interested. But there's going to be a small percentage of them that do use it. Those are the ones that again, through good marketing, you need to find, right? Once you find those surgeons, then you've empowered certain surgeons to be like, hey, like, here's how I use data to better inform my surgical decision making and actually make me better as a surgeon. So one thing that I could say is that you can look at tracking data in non-intuitive cases as a way to make surgeons better. Because again, look, I'm not a surgeon. My father's a surgeon. I went to medical school for some time. I don't think surgeons should just do all their cases robotically, because you have, as a surgeon, you should know how to do cases freehand, and you should know how to do surgeries, minimally invasively and open, because again, not every person is created the same. So you have to have different approaches, right? That's one way to do it. But again, the key to finding these people, right, getting off here on a little tangent, is that if you look at the technology adoption curve, right, the other curve that goes along with it is the Gartner hype cycle curve, which looks something like this. Okay. What that hype cycle curve is about is that when a new technology is introduced, right, there's a spike in the amount of interest that there is, right? So everybody's hyped up about it. It's great. Then it starts to go down because expectations are low because it's like, oh, it's not that great. And then over time, it becomes standard. Think about wearables, right? Remember that term wearables? Everybody was talking about that in 2013, 2014. That hype cycle went up, went down, then, normalized over time. It's the same thing here, right? And so I think, Mike, to your point, that's absolutely correct that most surgeons are not going to want this, but most people don't want any kind of change, right? You introduce new technology, especially if it's technology that's truly new and different, something that's going to create a category, something that is going to actually shift the paradigm and not just have incremental improvements, right? Then this is what you got to do, right? And unfortunately, in the world of soft tissue robotics, like with the exception of, I don't want to even mention the names of the company. There's a couple of companies that are really doing, I guess, something different. But most of these soft tissue robots, they're all like the same thing for the most part. Intuitive has got like a really impressive robot, but a lot of the other ones are pretty much the same. Moon Surgical is actually doing, and again, full disclosure, I did some work for Moon Surgical. Moon Surgical has got a really interesting robot. It's the first robot I've seen in a long time that I was actually very interested in, because not only the dynamics of the robot, because their whole thing is bringing the surgeon back into the operating field, but they have a very disruptive business model. So I like that. That's actually different. It's not just like this small little incremental change. So we'll see. What else? Any other questions? We're getting a lot of questions, not a lot of emojis. Help me out with emojis, everybody. Drop a few emojis in, So anyways, I have to hop on to my next meeting. I just wanted to do this real quick. And again, as always, don't forget, you can watch all these on demand and recorded on the YouTube channel. And maybe if these live streams, if they get enough requests for it, I might convert some of them into the podcast, right? But right now, there's just so much content. So it's hard to kind of keep up with it. So, but if you love these live streams and you're asking yourself, man, I really wish that these were on the State of MedTech podcast, shoot me a message. Maybe if I get enough of those, I will start doing them over to the podcast. So, but anyways, so that's it. If anyone knows Brian Miller, please send him a message. Tell him that I would love to have him on the show, because I'd like to talk about this topic with him. So anyways, hope you all have a fantastic Monday, and we'll see you next time.